The bakery was almost empty that afternoon. Outside, the wind had picked up, pushing leaves down the quiet street. Inside, the air smelled like cinnamon and warm butter. A simple white cake sat on the table by the window, 22 candles glowing softly, untouched. And across from it sat a young woman in a wheelchair. She wasn't crying, she wasn't smiling either. Just sitting there, hands in her lap, eyes on the flames, waiting for something, or maybe for no one at all. Most people didn't notice her. Just a girl with long brown hair, dressed too formally for a bakery. But if you looked a little closer, you'd see the truth in her shoulders, the way they sloped slightly, like someone who'd learned how to carry disappointment without letting it spill. Her name was Eva. She had lived most of her life inside a glass house, beautiful from the outside, empty on the inside. Her father ran one of the largest tech companies in the state. He built things, products, systems, power. But he hadn't built a single memory with her in years. Eva had been paralysed in a car accident when she was just 18. A red light, a drunk driver, and then silence. When she woke up, she couldn't feel her legs, and her father, he couldn't feel anything at all. He showed up with a team of lawyers and private doctors, built her a room in the mansion with every device money could buy, but never once asked her how she felt. And every year on her birthday, a wire transfer showed up in her account with a short message. Happy birthday, stay strong. No calls, no visits, just money. So today, on her 22nd birthday, she came here. To Sweet Haven Bakery, the place her mum used to take her before cancer took everything sweet out of their home. Her mum would always order the lemon tart, ask for extra whipped cream, and say, "A birthday without cake is just a meeting." Eva came alone, ordered a white cake with no writing, no name, no decoration, just candles. She lit them herself, waited, and waited, until the bell above the bakery door chimed. In walked a man, tall and a little rugged, with a young girl holding his hand. The girl looked about 6, messy hair, sneakers that lit up, holding a small box wrapped in bright yellow paper. They were laughing about something silly, something only fathers and daughters laugh about. And then the girl saw Eva. She stopped laughing, tugged her dad's sleeve, whispered something. Eva didn't hear the words. But a moment later, the man turned, gently approached her table and said, "Hey, would it be all right if we sat with you?" Eva looked up, startled. She wasn't used to people asking. Most didn't even notice her. But something in the little girl's eyes made her pause. The girl stepped forward, holding out the tiny box with both hands. "It's my mummy's birthday today," she said softly. "She's in heaven, so we bring cake to someone who looks lonely." That's what she used to do. Eva stared at the girl, and for the first time in a long, long while, she smiled. Eva didn't know what to say. The little girl was now standing beside her, looking up with big, hopeful eyes. The man, her father, Eva assumed, stood a few steps behind, respectful but watching closely, like he knew this moment mattered. Eva glanced down at the small box the girl had handed her. It was wrapped with care, uneven tape at the corners, a purple ribbon tied in a crooked bow. She swallowed hard. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a little unsteady. "That's really kind of you." The girl beamed. "I'm Lily," she said proudly, "and that's my dad, Daniel." Daniel stepped forward with a warm smile. He looked to be in his early 30s, with gentle eyes and hands that looked like they built things for a living. The kind of man who fixed his own truck, held doors open without thinking, and listened more than he talked. He nodded toward the chair across from Eva. "Mind if we join you for a few minutes? We won't stay long." Eva hesitated for just a second, then nodded. "Sure." Daniel pulled out the chair slowly, not with awkwardness, but with care. He sat down and Lily climbed into the seat next to him, swinging her feet. They didn't dive into conversation right away. For a while they just sat in a quiet little triangle, 3 strangers with different stories tied together by a moment of kindness. Lily spoke first. "My mommy died when I was a baby," she said matter-of-factly. "But Daddy says she still sees us when we do nice things, so today we bring cupcakes to people who look like they need a friend." Eva blinked fast. Lily pulled a slightly smushed cupcake from her coat pocket, its frosting only slightly intact, with a wobbly star-shaped candle stuck in the middle. "I saved this one," she said, placing it in front of Eva like it was something sacred. "I didn't eat it even though it smelled really good." Eva let out a soft laugh. It caught her by surprise. Daniel smiled quietly at the sound. "Thank you," Eva said again, looking at both of them. "I wasn't expecting anyone to..." noticed today." Daniel tilted his head a little. "We noticed." And he meant it, not in a patronising way, not out of pity, just simple human decency. Lily began humming to herself and fidgeting with her shoelaces, clearly comfortable now. Daniel leaned slightly toward Eva. "My daughter's got a radar for lonely people," he said gently. "I've stopped questioning it, she just sees things most folks miss." Eva glanced at the girl, who was now drawing little hearts in the fogged-up window beside them. "She's sweet," Eva said softly. "She's a light," Daniel agreed. "Keeps me going." Eva studied his face. He looked tired, but not the kind of tired that came from lack of sleep. It was something deeper, familiar. "Can I ask, what do you do?" she asked. "I build furniture," Daniel said. "Little workshop outside town. Started after Sarah, my wife, passed. Needed something to keep my hands busy. Turned out I had a knack for it." Eva nodded slowly. "That sounds peaceful." "Some days," he said with a small chuckle. "Others it's just sawdust and splinters. But it's honest." She liked that answer, honest. She hadn't heard much honesty in a long time. Eva looked down at the cupcake, still sitting in front of her, slightly tilted to the side. She reached for it slowly and ran a finger along the frosting, thoughtful. Then Lily suddenly piped up. "Aren't you going to make a wish?" Eva looked up, startled. "What?" "It's your birthday, right? You got to make a wish, but you have to close your eyes, that's the rule." Daniel smiled. "She's very strict about her cupcake rules." Eva laughed again, soft, breathy, unsure. But then she closed her eyes, and for the first time in years she made a wish. It wasn't big, it wasn't dramatic. She just wished not to be alone anymore. When she opened her eyes, Lily was grinning, and Daniel was looking at her like he already knew. And outside the window the wind kept blowing, but inside that little bakery there was warmth. The kind that didn't come from ovens or candles. The kind that came from being seen. Eva didn't know how long they sat there. Time felt different when someone was actually looking at her, not past her, not through her, but at her. Lily had moved on to drawing pictures on napkins now. One of them looked like a girl in a wheelchair with sparkles all around her. She was humming again, same tune from earlier, off-key and perfect. Daniel took a sip of coffee. "Do you come here often?" Eva shook her head. "First time in a long while. My mum used to bring me here when I was little. It's kind of a memory place now." Daniel nodded, like he understood more than she'd said. Those places are important. Sometimes just being in them brings a little piece of someone back. Eva stared at the flickering candles on the cake, letting the silence settle. "Does it get easier?" she asked suddenly. "Losing someone?" Daniel set his coffee down slowly. His eyes were steady. "No," he said, "but it gets less sharp." Eva didn't reply. She didn't need to. The ache in her chest had softened just a little, not gone. But for once, not unbearable. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "I used to think I had to be strong all the time, for Lily, for work, for myself. But turns out sometimes strength is just showing up, even when it hurts." Eva turned to him. "That sounds like something you didn't learn in a book." "I didn't," he said with a small smile. "I learned it the hard way." Lily interrupted their quiet moment by reaching across the table with another napkin. On it, she'd drawn 3 stick figures, one tall with a beard, one in a wheelchair with long hair, and one small with sparkly shoes. She pointed to them one by one. "That's Daddy, that's you, that's me, we're having cake." Eva looked at the drawing and felt something shift inside her, something she hadn't let move in years. Before she could say anything, Lily looked up with a serious face. "Do you have friends?" The question was so honest, so direct, that it caught Eva off guard. "I used to," she said quietly. "Not many now." "Why not?" Lily asked. Eva glanced at her wheelchair, then back at the girl. "People don't always know how to stay, especially when things change." Lily nodded like she understood more than a child should. "My grandma stopped coming around after Mommy died," Lily said softly. "She said it made her too sad." Eva blinked. "I'm sorry." "It's okay," Lily said with a shrug. "I still have Daddy, and sometimes when I feel really sad, he lets me talk about her, even if it makes us both cry." Daniel smiled gently. "Sad is part of the story," he added. "Doesn't mean the story's over." Eva let that sink in. For years, she had acted like her story had ended at the crash, as if her whole life had been split into before and after, with nothing worth writing in the after. But now, across this small round table in a quiet bakery, a little girl had drawn her into a new chapter. Eva looked at Daniel. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not walking past me, for letting her come over, for sitting." Daniel shrugged. "We all need someone to sit with now and then." Eva smiled. "That sounds like something from a movie." "Probably," he chuckled. but that doesn't make it untrue. They sat there a while longer, just talking, laughing here and there, and for the first time in a long time, Eva forgot to check the clock, forgot to count the minutes until she could go home and disappear again. When the bakery staff started turning chairs upside down and sweeping the floor, Eva glanced out the window. The sun had dipped low. Shadows stretched across the sidewalk. "I should probably get going," she said, wheeling herself back a little. Daniel stood up. "Do you need help getting to your car?" Eva hesitated. "I didn't drive. I had a car service drop me off." Daniel glanced out the window. "We're just a few blocks away. If you don't mind a little walk, we can walk you to the corner. Make sure you get a ride safely." Eva considered, then nodded. "I'd like that." Lily jumped down from her seat. "Can I push your chair?" Eva laughed softly. "It's heavy." "I'm strong," Lily declared, puffing up her chest. Daniel gave her a look. "We'll let Miss Eva decide." Eva smiled at them both, something warm blooming in her chest. "All right," she said, "let's go." And as they stepped out into the evening air, Lily chattering, Daniel walking beside her, and Eva rolling forward into something she couldn't quite name, she realised something. It didn't feel like the end of the day. It felt like the start of something new. The sidewalk was still damp from a light rain earlier that afternoon. Streetlights flickered on as the sky faded into a pale blue grey, and the air smelled faintly of earth and asphalt. Daniel walked slowly beside Eva, careful not to crowd her, but always close enough if she needed anything. Lily skipped ahead a little, her backpack bouncing with every step, still carrying the weight of the cupcake box they hadn't touched. Eva rolled along the sidewalk, her hands moving with ease on the wheels. The pavement was smooth here. She knew these streets, had driven down them before the accident. But walking, or rolling them like this, with company, felt different, lighter. She glanced up at Daniel. "You live nearby?" "About 10 minutes from here. Little house with a creaky porch and too many tools in the garage." "That sounds comforting," Eva said. Daniel chuckled. "It's home, messy, but it's ours." Lily turned around and walked backward for a few steps, facing them. "Do you have a dog?" "No," Eva replied. "I've never had one. My dad doesn't like pets." Lily made a face. "That's sad. Everyone needs a dog. They know when you're having a bad day." Daniel smiled. "She's been campaigning for one. If she starts sending you drawings of puppies, it's part of her strategy." Eva laughed, and it surprised her again how easily it came out around them, how natural it felt to just be. When they reached the corner, a black car was already waiting. The driver stepped out and opened the back door, but Eva didn't move right away. She turned to Lily. "Thank you for today. You're a very kind person." Lily looked proud but shrugged like it was no big deal. "You looked sad. I don't like when people look sad on their birthday." Eva smiled at her, then turned to Daniel. "Thank you," she said again, quietly. Daniel nodded. "You're welcome. It was a good day." Eva hesitated. Her hand lingered on the wheel rim. "Would it be weird if I invited you both for coffee sometime?" Daniel looked surprised, but not uncomfortable. "Not weird at all." She handed him her phone, and he added his number. When he passed it back, he said, "We go to the park most afternoons after school. Ducks, swings, the usual chaos. You're always welcome." Eva nodded, tucking the phone into her coat pocket. "I'll think about it." Daniel smiled. "No pressure, just glad we ran into each other today." Lily leaned in to hug her without asking. It was quick, tight, and real. Eva hugged back, and then she got into the car. As the driver pulled away, Eva looked out the window. Daniel and Lily stood on the sidewalk, waving. Lily jumped up and down once, her jacket sleeves flapping like wings. Eva waved back. Then she leaned against the window and let out a slow breath. She didn't know what this was. A friendship, a beginning? All she knew was that the quiet in her life felt a little less sharp now, a little more filled in. Later that night, in the quiet of her bedroom, she thought about the moment Lily handed her that crooked little cupcake and said it was her mum's birthday too. About the way Daniel had looked at her, not like a stranger in a wheelchair, but just a person. She stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then she opened her phone and typed a message. "Hey, I think I'll stop by the park tomorrow if that's okay." A few seconds later, Daniel replied, "We'd love that. Lily's already drawing something for you." Eva smiled, and for the first time in a long time, she looked forward to tomorrow. The next afternoon, Eva arrived at the park just after 3. The sun peeked through scattered clouds, and the air had that early fall crispness, cool enough for a light jacket, warm enough to stay a while. Leaves crunched under her wheels as she made her way down the paved path, eyes scanning for the little girl with the bright voice and the man who had unexpectedly changed the shape of her day. She didn't have to look long. Lily spotted her first. She was on the swings, feet kicking high, her hair flying behind her. The moment she saw Eva rolling up the path, she practically launched off the swing mid-air, landing in a half-run toward her. "You came!" she shouted. Eva braced for impact, laughing. Lily stopped just short, breathless. "I made you something," she said, digging into her backpack. "Wait, don't move." Daniel walked up behind her, holding a coffee in each hand. "She started drawing before breakfast," he said, handing one cup to Eva. "Said it couldn't wait." Eva smiled as she accepted the coffee. "You didn't have to..." "It's decaf," he said with a wink. "I figured you might like warm hands today." Lily finally pulled out a folded piece of paper and handed it over with great ceremony. It was a crayon drawing of the three of them again, this time sitting on a picnic blanket, surrounded by ducks and cupcakes. Eva's wheelchair had flowers all over it. The sun had a smiley face. Eva blinked. "This is beautiful." Lily beamed. "You can keep it for your fridge." Daniel sat down on the bench nearby, sipping his coffee, watching his daughter with that same quiet awe Eva had noticed the day before. She found herself settling into the moment like it was something familiar, even though it wasn't. Yet. "Is it okay if I hang out a bit?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "You don't need to ask." So she stayed. They didn't talk about anything heavy, not at first. Lily dragged Eva around to see her secret duck pond, which wasn't all that secret, but Eva pretended it was. They watched squirrels dart through piles of leaves. Eva told Lily about the books she used to love when she was little. Lily gave detailed opinions on each one, despite not having read most of them. At one point, Daniel leaned in and said quietly, "Thank you for saying yes." Eva looked at him. "To what?" "To showing up. A lot of people don't." She glanced away, letting the warmth of his words settle before replying. "I almost didn't," she admitted. "I've gotten used to keeping my circle small. Less risk that way." Daniel nodded slowly. "Yeah, but sometimes the risk is the only thing that gets you out of the same day on repeat." That hit harder than she expected. They sat quietly for a while, watching Lily build a leaf castle for a confused squirrel. Eva took a sip of coffee. "You're good at this." "At what?" "Parenting, showing up, being present." Daniel smiled, but there was a flicker of something else in his eyes. Sadness, maybe, or the memory of it. "I try," he said. "It's not always perfect, but Lily, she makes it easier." Eva looked at Lily, crouched in the grass, whispering something to a stick she had declared was a fairy wand. "She's lucky to have you," Eva said softly. Daniel turned toward her, his voice low. "We both lost something, but she saved me more than I saved her." Eva didn't respond right away. She didn't have to. There was something sacred about the silence between people who understood loss, who didn't rush to fill the gaps, but just let them be there. Lily came running back with dirt on her knees and joy in her voice. "Can we have a picnic next time?" she asked, flopping onto the bench between them. Daniel glanced at Eva. "You in?" Eva looked out over the trees, the soft golden light, the life she'd almost talked herself out of again. "I'm in," she said. Lily clapped. "Best day ever!" And maybe it wasn't, not for most people. But for Eva, it was the best one she'd had in a long, long time. Eva hadn't meant to go back to the park the next day, or the day after that, but somehow, by the end of the week, it had become a part of her routine. She even started setting an alarm, not because she had somewhere important to be, but because she finally had somewhere she wanted to go. And they were always there, like clockwork. Daniel sipping coffee from the same beat-up travel mug, and Lily twirling through the grass like the world was hers to decorate. They never made her feel like a guest, never asked questions that poked too deep. They just made room for her, like she'd been part of their little world for a while now, and they were just glad she finally showed up. On Friday afternoon, Eva brought sandwiches, not store-bought but actually made by her, which for her was a small miracle. When she rolled up to their usual spot near the duck pond, Lily screamed like she hadn't seen her in a year. "She brought a bag, that means food." Daniel laughed. "You've just become her favourite person." "Wasn't I already?" "Yeah," he grinned, "but now it's official." They sat together on the blanket, Lily in the middle, unwrapping sandwiches like they were gifts. Eva handed Daniel one with turkey and avocado and gave Lily a PB&J cut into little triangles. "I wasn't sure what she'd like," Eva said. Daniel held up the sandwich. "This is exactly what she'd like. You're basically a hero now." Eva took a bite of her own, surprised at how normal everything felt. For so long, meals had been either sterile hospital trays or silent dinners at home with staff who called her Miss and disappeared when she didn't speak. Now she was laughing about sticky jelly fingers and arguing about which ducks were secretly in love. Halfway through the picnic, Daniel stood up to throw away napkins and wrappers. Eva found herself alone with Lily, who was stacking rocks into a tiny pyramid. The little girl paused, then looked up. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you like my dad?" Eva blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, like him." Eva let out a short breath, caught off guard. "I think he's kind," she said honestly. "He listens, he sees people." Lily nodded, satisfied. "He likes you." Eva looked at her. "He told you that?" "No, but I can tell. He smiles different when you're around." Before Eva could respond, Daniel came back, dropping into his seat with a groan. "Getting old," he said, stretching his legs. "You're 32, Eva teased. "Exactly, ancient." Lily flopped down beside him and whispered loudly, "I asked her." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Asked her what?" "Nothing," Eva said quickly, cheeks pink. Daniel gave Lily a look. "You're not subtle." Lily grinned. "I wasn't trying to be." They laughed, loud and real. The kind of laughter that lingers, that sticks in your clothes like the smell of a good campfire. As the afternoon sun dipped lower, Daniel helped fold the blanket while Lily chased a squirrel halfway across the field. Eva watched him shake out the fabric, his movements practiced and unhurried. There was something about the way he did small things, like they mattered. "You know," she said softly, "I didn't expect any of this." Daniel looked up. "Any of what?" "You, her, this. I didn't think people like you showed up in my world." He walked over and handed her the folded blanket. "Maybe it's not about our worlds. Maybe it's just people who need each other finding a place to meet." Eva held his gaze. "I didn't know I needed anything," she whispered. Daniel's voice dropped. "Me neither, until I met you." She didn't reply, not with words, but her eyes did, and somehow that was enough. Saturday came slower than usual. Eva sat on her front porch, a blanket across her lap, a mug of tea growing lukewarm in her hands. She'd barely slept, not because something was wrong, but because something might finally be right. And that feeling, for someone who'd gotten used to numbness, was unfamiliar, unsettling in the best and worst ways. She had never told anyone this before, but for the past few years, birthdays had always left her feeling hollow. Not just because of what happened, not just because of who didn't show up, but because she'd stopped believing anything could change. And yet, here she was, waiting to see a man and a child who weren't hers, but somehow felt like they belonged. When Daniel's truck pulled up in front of her building just after lunch, Eva didn't wait for him to come to the door. She was already outside, ready. He stepped out and smiled the moment he saw her. "You look like you beat me to the plan," he said. "I'm tired of waiting," she replied. He opened the passenger door for her, adjusting the ramp they'd used once before. The movement was natural now, like muscle memory. Inside the truck, Lily sat in the back seat, surrounded by coloured pencils and snack wrappers. "I brought you a bracelet," she announced as soon as Eva was buckled in. "You did?" Lily leaned forward and looped something around Eva's wrist. It was made of purple string, a few mismatched beads, and one shiny button. "It's a friendship bracelet," Lily said proudly, "but also a brave bracelet." Eva ran her fingers over the lumpy beads. "I don't think I've ever had one of these." Lily looked shocked. "Well, now you do." Daniel glanced over, smiling. "She's been working on it all morning. You should have seen the meltdown over the missing green bead." "I needed it to match her eyes," Lily said, like it was obvious. Eva didn't know what to say. She just stared at the bracelet like it was made of diamonds. They drove out to a quiet spot on the edge of town. A lake, still and glassy, with a few picnic tables under tall pine trees. There were barely any people around. Just the sound of birds and the occasional rustle of wind through the branches. Lily immediately ran to the water's edge to throw in pebbles. Daniel set up a small picnic, nothing fancy, just sandwiches, chips and lemonade. But everything felt intentional. Eva sat beside him on the bench, her chair parked just close enough to bump his knee every so often. She didn't mind. They ate in comfortable silence for a while, watching Lily talk to herself in the way only children can, narrating her entire rock-skipping process like she was hosting a TV show. Then Daniel said quietly, "I don't usually bring people here." Eva looked over. "Why not?" He shrugged. "It was Sarah's favourite spot. We used to come out here before Lily was born. Sometimes after, too. It's been a long time since I shared it." Eva didn't say anything at first. She just looked out at the lake, letting the stillness settle around them. "Thank you for bringing me," she said eventually. Daniel nodded, his voice a little rough. "You remind me of her sometimes, not because you're alike, but because you see people the way she did." Eva's chest tightened. "I'm not always good at being seen," she said softly. "You're better at it than you think." She hesitated, then asked the question she hadn't dared to until now. What was she like? Daniel smiled slowly. She was bright, not loud, just steady. The kind of person who made space for other people. She believed in second chances and third ones too, painted murals in our hallway, talked to strangers in the grocery store. She would have liked you. Eva looked down at the bracelet on her wrist. "Sometimes I still get angry," she admitted. "About the accident, about the things I lost." "You should," Daniel said without hesitation. "You're allowed to." She glanced at him. "Even now? Especially now." They sat with that for a while, no rush, no need to fix it. Then Lily came over, holding a stick like a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "it is now time for the talent portion of the day." Daniel groaned. "Oh no." "Yes," Lily shouted. "Daddy, you're up first. Tell a joke." Daniel stood dramatically, brushing crumbs off his shirt. "What did one plate say to the other plate?" Eva raised an eyebrow. "I have no idea." "Lunch is on me." Lily booed loudly. Eva laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. Then Lily turned to her. "Your turn. What's your talent?" Eva paused, caught off guard. I used to write stories." "Tell one!" Daniel gave her a look. "We've got time." Eva thought for a moment. Then she started. Slowly at first. A story about a girl who used to fly. Not with wings, but with imagination. A girl who got knocked out of the sky, but slowly learned to build a new kind of flight from the ground up. Lily listened, mouth open. Daniel listened too, eyes steady on her, like he already knew how the story would end, but wanted to hear it from her anyway. And as Eva spoke, something inside her unfolded. Not a performance, not a confession, just truth, wrapped in a story. The sun began to dip behind the trees. The lake shimmered gold. And somewhere in the quiet space between sentences, between laughter and memory, between Lily's voice and Daniel's steady silence, Eva realised something. She wasn't just visiting their world anymore, she was already part of it. The next morning, Eva woke up earlier than usual. There was no alarm, no nurse, no routine, just sunlight creeping through her curtains and the memory of Lily's laughter still echoing in her head. She lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, hand resting over the soft string of her friendship bracelet. It wasn't fancy. It didn't match anything she owned. But it made her feel more herself than any expensive gift ever had. Later that day, she was in the kitchen making coffee, real coffee, not the instant kind, when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. "Lily wants to know if you're coming to the bookstore tomorrow. She says you need at least 2 more fairy books to be considered official." Eva laughed. She typed back. "I wouldn't want to break any fairy laws. I'll be there." There was a pause, then another text came through. "Also, would you want to grab dinner with just me sometime? No ducks, no fairies, just us." Eva stared at the screen. It shouldn't have made her nervous. It was just dinner. But it wasn't just anything. Not when you hadn't let anyone close in years. She typed slowly. "I'd like that." That night, she wheeled herself into her home office. It was a room she hadn't used much since the accident. Most of it had stayed untouched. Books on the shelves, journals in drawers, sketches taped to the wall like she might one day pick them back up. She sat there for a long time, letting the quiet in. Eventually, she pulled out an old notebook, the kind she used to carry everywhere. The pages still smelled like coffee and autumn air. She didn't write anything, not yet, but she opened it, and that felt like enough for today. The next day, they met at the bookstore, a small, cosy shop tucked between a laundromat and an old diner. The bell on the door jingled as Eva entered, and there they were. Daniel flipping through a biography, Lily in the children's corner already surrounded by books. Eva rolled over, pretending to be serious. "I was told there'd be fairies." Lily popped up from behind a shelf. "There are, and some of them have pets." Daniel smiled. "I already warned the cashier we might be leaving with half the store." They spent an hour browsing. Lily insisted on reading the first page of every book out loud. Eva didn't mind. Her voice was like sunshine, loud in the best way. At one point, while Lily was lost in a pile of glittery picture books, Daniel and Eva found themselves alone near the back. He looked at her, soft and steady. "I meant what I said yesterday, about dinner." Eva nodded. "I haven't done something like that in a long time." "Same," he said. "We don't have to rush, I just wanted to ask." "I appreciate that," she said, then added, "I want to go." They didn't make big plans, no reservations, just a quiet agreement to see where it led. And for the first time in a long time, Eva didn't feel like she had to brace for disappointment. That evening, back at home, her phone rang. The screen lit up with a name she hadn't seen in weeks. Dad. Eva stared at it. Her thumb hovered over the decline button, then paused. She let it ring once more, then finally picked up. Hello? There was silence on the other end. Then his voice, cold and practiced. I was told you've been going out lately, that you've met someone. Eva didn't answer. She didn't owe him explanations. I just want to make sure you're being careful, he continued. People take advantage of situations like yours. Eva closed her eyes, the familiar sting rising in her chest. People like me, she asked quietly. There was a pause. You know what I mean. No, she said, her voice sharper now. I don't. Why don't you explain it to me? More silence. Then I just don't want you to get hurt. Eva laughed, dry and tired. You stopped worrying about that 4 years ago. I provided for you, he said. But you didn't stay, she whispered. He didn't respond. She let the silence hang, let him feel it. Then she said, I'm doing fine. I don't need your permission to have a life. And before he could say another word, she hung up. She sat there in the quiet for a long time after. Not crying, not shaking, just breathing. And when her phone buzzed again, this time with a message from Daniel that read, Thinking about you, she smiled. A real honest smile, because for the first time someone wasn't trying to control her. He was just showing up and staying. Their first dinner wasn't fancy. Daniel picked a quiet spot just outside of town. A small place with a wooden patio, string lights overhead, and tables that didn't feel too close together. He told Eva they had the best chicken pot pie in 3 counties. She believed him. When he helped her out of the truck, it wasn't awkward, just natural, like the kind of help that didn't assume you needed saving, only that someone was there if you wanted it. They were seated in a corner near the window. A little candle flickered between them, and Eva realised she hadn't been out like this, not in a dress, not in a restaurant, for almost 4 years. Daniel noticed the way she looked around. Too quiet, he asked. She shook her head. No, it's nice. I forgot what this feels like. What? Being looked at without being pitied. Daniel leaned forward, his voice soft but firm. You don't need pity, Eva. You need people who see you. She met his eyes. I see you, he said again. She looked down at her menu, biting the inside of her cheek. It was too much and just enough all at once. They ordered, they laughed, talked about books, about old music, about how Daniel had once tried to learn the banjo and failed miserably, about how Eva used to sneak into her mother's closet just to try on her heels, long before she even had anywhere to go. There were pauses too, comfortable ones, the kind where no one rushed to fill the silence. After dinner, they sat outside for a while. The air had turned cool. Daniel handed her his jacket without asking. It smelled like sawdust and mint gum. Eva looked out at the stars overhead, a little surprised to see so many. You ever think your life would look like this? She asked. Daniel shook his head. Not even close. Better or worse? He smiled. Harder, but somehow better. She nodded. Yeah, that's about where I'm landing too. He looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, Can I tell you something? Of course. You're not broken. She turned her head. I know people have probably made you feel that way. Your dad, strangers, yourself maybe, but I need you to know, you're not. Eva's eyes stung, but she didn't look away. You're still all the things you were before, and maybe more now, stronger, wiser, still stubborn as hell. She laughed through the ache. Takes one to know one. Daniel grinned. I mean it, Eva. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, not even to me. And that was what undid her. Not the candlelight, not the compliments, but that sentence. She reached for his hand across the table. He took it without hesitation. They sat there like that, hands linked, breath slow, hearts a little quieter than before. The next morning she woke up to another message from her father. This one wasn't a call. It was a short text. We need to talk. No greeting, no warmth, just pressure wrapped in formality. She didn't reply, but something in her gut told her he wasn't done, not yet. That afternoon, Daniel and Lily stopped by her apartment for the first time. Eva had cleaned all morning, even though she knew neither of them would care. Still, she wanted things to feel right, to feel warm. Lily ran in like she had been there 100 times. You have a bookshelf that goes to the ceiling, she squealed. This is officially the coolest house ever. Daniel stepped inside with a grocery bag in hand. Lily insisted on baking cookies. Eva raised a brow. Is she the baker? She's the chaos, Daniel said. I'm the clean-up crew. They filled the small kitchen with laughter and flour. Lily somehow got chocolate chips in her hair. Daniel burned the first batch, and Eva made fun of him for it. But in between the mess, in between the sweetness and spilled sugar, Eva felt something she hadn't in years. Home. not the house. The feeling. Later, after Lily fell asleep watching cartoons on the couch, Daniel and Eva sat on the floor, their backs against the sofa. Neither of them said much. Until Eva broke the quiet. "My dad texted me again?" Daniel turned to her. "He wants to talk." Daniel didn't rush to give advice. He didn't say she should or shouldn't. He just listened. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "Part of me wants to tell him to leave me alone. The other part still wants him to be proud of me." Daniel nodded slowly. "It's okay to want both." She rested her head against the back cushion. "I'm scared," she whispered, "of what he'll say, of what he'll do." Daniel reached for her hand again. "Whatever happens, you won't be alone." And Eva believed him, because for the first time someone hadn't just said the words. They'd shown up, and kept showing up. It had been a week since Eva read that text from her father. She hadn't replied, not because she was ignoring it, but because she was thinking, deeply, carefully, trying to decide whether she was ready for another conversation that might hurt, or maybe, for the first time, help. Daniel never pushed. He didn't ask if she'd responded, didn't weigh in unless she invited him to. He simply kept showing up, in little ways. Morning check-ins, late-night texts, sharing quiet space, never needing to fill every silence. That Friday, Eva finally messaged her father back. "If you want to talk, meet me at Sweet Haven Bakery. Sunday, 2 o'clock. It was the place where everything had started again. The place that had been hers, then theirs. She chose it for that exact reason. Sunday came with clear skies and cold air. Daniel offered to go with her, but Eva shook her head. "I need to do this part on my own." He nodded. "We'll be at the park after if you want to meet us." "I will." She wore a soft blue sweater and a scarf her mother had given her years ago. Her hair was pulled back, simple and clean, and on her wrist, the same purple bracelet Lily had made, still holding strong. When she arrived at the bakery, her father was already there. He sat near the window, dressed sharply, as always. His hands folded in front of him, posture perfect. He looked older than she remembered, not in years, but in weight. He stood when he saw her, unsure of whether to smile. She didn't. She rolled to the table and parked across from him. "Hi," she said simply. "Eva," he nodded. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The clink of dishes and quiet hum of conversation filled the space between them. Finally, he said, "You look well." "I am. I'm glad." He paused, then added, "I heard you've been spending time with someone, a man, and his daughter." Eva's jaw tightened. "Their names are Daniel and Lily." He nodded. "And they've been good to you?" Eva looked him dead in the eye. "They've been real with me, which is more than I can say for most people in my life." Her father didn't flinch, but something softened in his shoulders. "I know you think I abandoned you," he said slowly. "Maybe I did." "You did," he sighed. "After the accident, I didn't know how to show up, so I threw money at everything. Private care, therapists, renovations, but I never walked into the room." "No, you didn't," she said. "You disappeared." "I was scared," he admitted. Eva's voice dropped. "So was I, but I didn't get to run." He looked down at his coffee. "I thought, if I kept everything under control, if I managed it like a business problem, it wouldn't fall apart." "It did," she said. "I did." He finally met her gaze. "I'm sorry." She wasn't expecting to hear that. "I know it's late," he continued. "Maybe too late. But I want to understand now, if you'll let me." Eva studied him. For a moment, all she saw was the man who didn't show up in hospital rooms. The man who let silence answer when love was needed most. But beneath that she saw something else. A man trying, a man cracking open the armour he'd worn too long. "I don't know what a future looks like for us," she said honestly. "But I'm open to trying, slowly, on my terms." He nodded. "Whatever you need." She reached for her coffee and took a sip. It was a small gesture, but he understood it meant she wasn't leaving right away. And maybe that was enough for now. That afternoon she met Daniel and Lily at the park. The sun was low, casting long shadows on the grass. Lily was already swinging, legs pumping, jacket unzipped, joy radiating from her like light. Daniel stood near a tree, hands in his pockets. When he saw Eva, he smiled, warm, easy, the kind of smile that says, "You made it." She wheeled over. "Hey," he said. "Hey, you okay?" "I will be." Daniel didn't press. He just walked beside her to the bench, sat down, and waited. Eva watched Lily soar higher and higher on the swing, hair wild in the wind. "She told me last week she wants to be a teacher," Eva said. "Really?" "Yeah, said she wants to teach kids how to be kind." Daniel chuckled. "Sounds about right." Eva looked down at her hands. You know, for a long time I thought healing meant going back to who I was before. But I'm starting to think it just means becoming someone new, someone who remembers the pain but doesn't live inside it. Daniel reached over, resting his hand gently on hers. That sounds like someone I'd be lucky to know. She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. You already do. He smiled. They sat like that until the sun began to set. Until Lily came running over, breathless and full of stories, tugging at Eva's sleeve, asking if she'd come over for dinner. And she said yes, because now she could. In the months that followed, life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were still hard days, still moments of doubt. Her father made missteps. She had to learn to speak up. Daniel had work struggles. Lily got sick one week and kept Eva up all night watching cartoons and asking for toast at 3 a.m. But there was love. A love not built on rescue but on presence. A quiet, steady showing up over and over again. Eva started writing again, just a little. And some nights, Daniel would find her in the corner of the living room, scribbling in an old notebook, glasses sliding down her nose, Lily snoring beside her. And every time he looked at her, he saw not what had been taken, but what had been rebuilt. Not alone, not broken, just here, alive, and still writing her story. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like a miracle. It looks like a little girl sharing her cupcake, a man who listens without trying to fix, and a woman slowly remembering that she's allowed to be seen, loved, and happy again. Thank you for staying with me until this very moment. It truly means a lot, and I'm deeply grateful for your time. Before we move on to the next story, if you enjoyed this one, I'd be so thankful if you could leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Wishing you kindness, peace, and a little bit of magic in your everyday life. See you again soon, right here on Rain Inside.